If you're trying to make any kind of meaningful, effective change in your life, you've come to the right place.
Good day, ladies and gents. I'm Loree Bischoff, and we are back with another inspiring episode of We're Talking Shift. Today, we're going to talk about one of the greatest threats to our health, and that is stress. I read a recent survey that said 84% of adults report feeling at least one emotion associated with prolonged stress, which is the dangerous kind. But the most common feelings are usually anxiety, anger, and sadness. So my guest today is going to talk about different kinds of stress and steps that you can take to create a life that is free from chronic stress. And he's also going to share with us some great ideas on how to change quickly and become the best version of ourselves. Rich Maloney is the founder and CEO of Quality Mind Global, a leading international mental wellness training and licensing business with over 1,000 clients spanning more than 50 countries. He is also the founder and co-host of the Quality Mind podcast series. Rich has been a headline speaker in 15 countries, and he is an accomplished author, having written 4 books: Injury Free, Mental Training for Elite Athletes; The Minds of Winning Teams, Creating Team Success Through Engagement and Culture; Engage and Grow, 6 Steps to Building Highly Engaged Teams, which he co-authored; and Stress Free, How to Thrive Under Pressure in Unprecedented Times. Boy, do we need that right now. Rich lives in Melbourne, Australia, with his wife, Kristen, and their 3 young daughters. Rich, welcome to We're Talking Shift.
Loree, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. How are your stress levels this morning?
Mine are actually, they're pretty good. Doing things a little bit different today. Normally, as I mentioned briefly, I have a show producer that's handling all the techie stuff for me, and for a variety of reasons, we couldn't make that work today. So I'm wearing all the hats. So I guess, to be honest, maybe a tad bit of stress, but I feel like we're going to get through it.
Well, it's great to be on your podcast. It's early morning here in Melbourne. We're heading into winter, and it's all getting around the fireplaces now with the families and kids. So it's an exciting time of the year. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. We're just coming out of winter, and we have like a beautiful summer day here right now. So I am just delighted about that. The thought of going back to sweaters and fireplaces is lovely as it is. I don't want to see it for a long time again. Anyway, so yeah, we are experiencing globally a lot of bizarreness and craziness, and stress is a huge outcome of what has been going on. So it's a good time to revisit that, and I thought it would be interesting, first of all, to just touch on stress as far as defining it a little bit, because there are positive stresses that are good for us, and then there's negative stress. So I thought we should maybe just differentiate between the two, first of all, and then we're going to talk, of course, about how to manage negative stress. Then we're going to talk about becoming the best version of ourselves, which we, all can use reminders of that, especially when we're stressed.
That's it. So the question is positive and negative stress, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, positive stress is usually something that's good for you, like stressing your body physically, right? Through training and exercise, right? So that it becomes stronger, remains capable of doing, what it's designed to do. That would be an example, right, of positive stress.
Yeah, well, it really comes down to perspective, doesn't it? Because if we didn't have stress, we wouldn't grow.
Right.
We'd just be hanging out, going, well, we know while we're here, it's all ho-hum, but stress is designed to grow, because as a human species in this amazing journey called life, we are forced to grow. And if you don't grow, you'll shrivel up and you'll go into maybe anxiety and depression. So it's a forceful stress. So it's stress that really, having worked with thousands of athletes and business coaches and everyday people, it's really about managing the momentum of stress. And so, because stress depletes your energy centers, it depletes your cellular structure, it makes you sick, but at the same time, it creates the person who you want to be. So it's about, the positive stress means, you're growing, you're educating, you're learning. Like I took my daughter this morning for a 2K time trial at 6 o'clock this morning, and she gets to the last, half a kilometre, and, there's stress. But then she accomplishes that and she's absolutely pumped. So there's a positive stress. So I work with people that really can't handle like the stress of life being, if it's in momentum. And what I mean by that, it's like they've got a neurological pathway of not managing stress very well. So that's putting people under pressure. And so it's about then changing their neurological pathways, literally that, to make sure that they can, and it's like an awareness factor of your own emotional intelligence, your own spiritual intelligence, who you are as opposed to what you've become, and then giving them the skills and the tools and then the activities to build a new sort of brain structure. And this sounds a bit random right now, but it's all about rewiring our brain so we can manage pressure. That's what it's like. And so that's what the stress does. And contrast, which pushes us in a different direction. So you may be in a relationship, Loree, that's not working for you, and you're getting contrast because there may be a new opportunity for you. So you've got to sometimes trust the greater good has a path for you that you probably can't see right now.
Yeah. So I love that you're talking about the neurological pathways, because that is such a it's a biological thing. I mean, it's literally, right? It's in you've trained your brain how to respond to things. So I love that you said that, which means if you've trained it to respond one way, then you can train it to or retrain it to respond differently, right?
Well, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, and also before you answer that, then let's talk about how that happens. I mean, some people think, well, I'm just born this way. This is how I think. This is how I behave. But it's learned, right? So talking about how those neurological pathways develop in the first place.
Well, it's sort of both, because we are conditioned from our upbringing, and the brain itself, so from the ages from 0 to 7, we are in our brains are in a frequency of hypnosis. And so that means we are more or less from 0 to 7 just consuming and soaking up our environment. Now, if our parents are short-tempered, don't manage stress, broken relationships, that's all learnt. Right? That's subconscious learnings that really we don't get a choice about. And so, you do become your parents because they got it from their parents. And so that's why it's so interesting about neurological pathways, because after the age of 7, your program's in play. And as I said, if you've grown up with a stressful father or mother who had anxiety or depression or just couldn't handle stress very well, then you're more likely to get it. And so it's after that 7 years, then you can make choices on rewiring someone. Mm-hmm. And that's when it gets really interesting. And so that's why you see a lot of young elite athletes, or athletes who are parents, a lot of their kids become athletes, and they're really good athletes. It's because they can manage stress. So they subconsciously learned that as coming through their childhood. And so as you grow forward, it's really about understanding how do we change the brain. And this is what I want as the message today from me is, if you really want to become the best version of yourself, personal development is not good enough. Personal development, in my opinion, it has a glass ceiling. Mm-hmm. And so it's about the brain, as we mentioned a minute ago, Loree. You've got to change your neurological structures. And it's very easy to do once you know how. And that's what we do with Quality Mind.
That's super cool. And I could not agree more. You're right, because I've been doing my own personal development for 35 years, my entire adult life. And I've been working with clients for like 14 years. And you're right. I mean, there are not everyone, but there are times and certain people, depending on the conditions and what's going on, that just you get to a point and it's sometimes you just can't get past it. And if you don't understand that there is, there's wiring and beliefs and these patterns lurking in the shadows that are not part of your conscious awareness. And you've got to be able to find a way to access that, unwind it, sort of reprogram, replace the old stuff that is not helping you, that's actually, hurting you in some way or limiting you. With new empowering, beliefs, patterns, habits, what have you, because you're so right. We don't realize until we start becoming true seekers and trying to figure out, how do I become this better version of myself? Unless you're really seeking, there's a whole chunk there that you just don't understand because it's not in your awareness. And it all happens before you're age 7.
Yeah, it's like, it makes sense though, because it's like buying a Dell computer and there's no programs in it. So then you buy Excel's, PowerPoint, all these softwares to give the computer something to work with. And that's the same as us as kids. So we get to assimilate to our tribe. We speak the same language. We share the same mannerisms, personalities. And so it's a great way to do it. But what happens is we're trapped already, so then we go to retreats and workshops and read books. But what happens with those, they're fabulous. So we run them all around the world, and I've written 4 books. So they have relevance, but they don't change the brain. They give you insight, they give you some knowledge and tools and tips. And if you go to a retreat, it allows you to sort of stop the momentum and chill out and meet some lovely people. But then you go back to life and you go back to the same old, same old. And so there's only 2 ways to really change quickly. And that's really understanding that 95% of who you are is because of that first 7 years. So that's really powerful. So if you've got habits and stories, so we've had clients who had migraines because their parents had migraines for 37 years and they just realised it was a story. It's a subconscious pattern. So the 2 ways, quite simply, is, one is hypnosis. So you've got to get someone else to actually change your subconscious, right? So we can't do that all day, every day, can we, Loree? But it does work, and sometimes fleeting, but sometimes forever. The other way is, the most powerful way, is through repetition and reprogramming. And so it's like learning to drive a car. You have to do it repetitively.
Right.
And then you learn the skill set. So then it's blocked in your subconscious. And so what we do is, it's just about constant reprogramming of the mind through your own conscious choices. And so we use technology for that as well to help, because we're lazy thinkers, because the brain is designed for safety. The brain isn't designed for success. So you have to hack yourself into success or rewire yourself. And that's what I love about life, Loree, is that we don't know why we're here, right? We've got the veil of amnesia on top of us, and it's always uncertain, but everyone gets so scared about uncertainty, but we don't know why we're here anyway. So let's embrace uncertainty. Uncertainty,
Yeah.
And you can design yourself.
Yeah. Uncertainty is, it's unnatural for us because, as you say, the brain is wired for survival. And so, back in the early days, you had to be certain about things or your life might be ended in a flash, right? So, so that ability to embrace the adventure of uncertainty and the potential that lies in uncertainty is not easy for a lot of people.
It causes the stress.
Right. It's the stress. And so many people would much rather stay with the stress. It's kind of like the devil, even if it's uncomfortable, I'm certain about it and I know it, I'm familiar with it. So I'll hang out there because what's in that uncertainty is too scary or, just too overwhelming to even consider. But you're right. Uncertainty is where so much of your potential lies.
Well, that's it. So, and that's really discovering the master within. And so this is the journey we take people on. It's like understanding that our brains, or our minds, you could say, it's like we're wired for safety, but within us is this essential energy, this soul within us, this spirit, this God, whatever you want to call it. There's an intelligent system that guides us through life, right? That is really part of our anchor towards our universal existence. And so when you start reaching towards this spiritual side of it, as opposed to letting go of the human safety mechanism, you can start actually mastering your life. And this really sounds a little bit out there for right now, but this is what we do with our clients. It's like, okay, understanding that the mind has the mentality of a 12 to 13 to 14-year-old, because it's all about, don't do this, be careful, who's not returning your emails. There's just a lot of mind chatter. It's scary out there. It's all designed to keep you safe for evolutionary purposes. But when you sort of start really realizing that there's a part of you within us, which is like our inner Sherpa, that really wants us to reach our dreams. It excites us when we see a dream. We get lit up. One of the things is follow your true north, and that's your soul's direction. So if you get really lit up, and it's not anxiety, it's actually quite genuine lit up, then that's where you got to go. Even if it's whether it's for a coffee with that friend or that friend, but it's our direction. So when you start really learning this inner Sherpa and understanding the language of the inner Sherpa, is what we do, people's lives change dramatically and quickly, and they can relax, because there's more energy over here as over here.
Right.
Because you deplete your energies over here and you renew your energies over here. And so all of a sudden you feel more self-worth growing because you're starting to get to know who you are as opposed to what you've become.
Right. Oh, that's cool. I like that. And I like the fact that you brought in kind of the spiritual aspect, which you could call it energy, you could call it, inspiration, or, the what calls to you, whatever. There's a lot of different words for it, but it is definitely, for me, I definitely look at it as, it's spiritually, we're creative beings. We're designed to create, and we're designed to,
yes.
to make something of our life, whatever that is, right. however significant or insignificant, it doesn't really matter. But if, which is again part of growth, right? And if you're not creating and growing and learning, if you're not somehow doing something that makes you feel like you are not stuck or stagnant, it's really important to feel like you are doing something that you feel like you've evolved, even if it's a little bit, on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we're always creating, as you said. Like, we are master creators in this masterful school called life. We think we went to school. No, this is school, right? So you go through lessons, right? And then you don't get that lesson right, well, you're going to repeat it. Right. But what happens with people is they don't realise they're always creating, and they're either consciously creating, like really just excited about their future, designing what they want, living more in the present moment, living more in the future, but not holding on to the future, as opposed to majority are living in the past. So you're recreating your past, right? Because you're always creating. So when people really understand, it's like having permanently having paintbrushes in your hand and you're painting a canvas all day long, but you're not looking at the canvas. And then at the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month, you look at the canvas and it's like a whole mess. And so your life's a mess because they've been worried about the past. They've been regurgitating everything, and that's what happens with our minds. So we train our minds from not quantity minds to quality, and then you focus with your heart center what you want to create with, and then you start getting flow. Then all of a sudden manifestation, all of a sudden abundance, whatever you want, because we're here to create. When you understand the power of that, man, we got clients all around the world saying this happened and this has happened now. It happened so quickly. I've got my Range Rover. I've got this. I've got this. And so now people are excited about their future. And that's what releasing a lot of the control of life and let life flow you somewhat. But first, you've got to get in control of yourself.
And I think that one of the key things that you said there is consciously creating, because people are not consciously aware that the patterns, the beliefs, the behaviors, the constantly thinking about the past, all of those things that you are not really aware of are continually recreating the same type of life and experiences for you. So if you become aware of that, as you say, and, quality thinking, you then are now empowered. You understand that if you want a different, experience, if you want different results and experiences in your life, you have to start by thinking differently, which, I think I read, I don't remember what section of your book it was, where you used the phrase thought shopping, which I thought was really, really interesting. I love that phrase. Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, so I have a mobile phone app called Quality Mind. You can find it online. But one of the key aspects is, so once I had to hack myself. I was a young kid coming through. I was an elite athlete. I got sacked. I went into depression, anxiety. It was a short story. And I went into a very spiritual, mystical 15 years. And I had to really figure out why I was causing a lot of pain in my life. And I realized it just came down to my thinking. And so, I'll wake up in the morning and my mind was unconsciously creating, and I was just away with the fairies and just preparing for the doom and gloom of the day. So when I started to realize that all my anxiety was coming from my thoughts, then I started to say, well, I've got to change my thoughts. And it sounds so easy to do, but it's very difficult to do at the start. So thought shopping quite simply is like one of my favorite statements is your state is your best mate. It needs to be your best mate. And so if you're feeling off, it means you're thinking off. And this is what creates anxiety. So first step is you're thinking, I'm uncertain, I'm not happy, I'm no good. You'll feel it. You'll instantly feel it in the upper body, usually of your body. It's a sensation that kicks through. And then you go into a mood, and then you get into anxiety, and you can go into panic attacks, and you can go into depression. It's like a 6-stage evolution of the mind, but it all starts with the thought. Mm-hmm. And so if you get the thought right, then you don't get the sensation of negativity.
Right.
And so then we just decided to put it in here. Like the app says, how are you feeling, emoji? Why are you feeling that way? Worried about today? Got to speak publicly, got to meet Rich on this session. And then we get to workshop them out, so we opposite it. So what's another thought? There's like, you love shopping, Loree, we all love shopping. Maybe not all of us, but I do. Shop another thought in. Okay, what's another thought? What's the opposite of what I'm thinking? I'm not feeling, I'm nervous about today's presentation. The opposite of that is I'm going to smash today's presentation.
Yeah.
So you're banging that in all day long. So until you feel it, you've got to get to the point where you feel it.
Right.
And that's when it really hits home, and you become that person. Because remember, the child mind, it's got the mentality of a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, which is going to keep you safe. Be careful. So you've got to hack that or rewire that. Right. So thought shopping is quite simply the ability to recognize and the awareness of the thought, and then do something about it. It's a universal law of control. Control your thought. Where most people just go around and say, well, you made me feel that way. Or, I just, they're off. They're in a mood again. And, right. And that's what I teach my kids. And, every morning I make sure my state is right. Get out of, even if I've got stresses because I'm an entrepreneur, there's thousands of them. But I do the best I can to continually be in charge of my thoughts and then shop them in or out.
Yeah, I love that. It's within our control by simply realizing that we have a ladder, if you will, of emotions ranging from, right, the very best, the highest, blissful, joyous, happy, down to, neutral, feeling okay, pretty decent, all the way down the ladder to, despair and depression. And then there's everything in between, anger, frustration, there's a whole range. And I think you're right. When you realize that you are feeling something that falls, toward the bottom of the ladder, toward that negative, range, you do, if you realize you really can think your way to a better feeling. And you may not be able to go from, the depths of despair all the way up to the top of the ladder to, ecstasy and bliss, but you could find a thought that you feel like I could get with this, and you could feel, go up the ladder one rung, you could up level a little bit and then think some more and up level a little bit more. So you can kind of make your way up that emotional scale, if you will. And I think because you're so right. So many people really do have it flipped that, I feel this way, so now I'm thinking this way. But no, you're thinking this way and you're creating meaning around something. And you could change the meaning, change your thought, and then you will be able to change your feelings, your emotions. And so if we flip that around, now again, we've taken control of our state of being and managing it. We must learn how to manage our emotions if we want to be masters of ourselves. And that's a big key right there, right?
And our emotions work for us too. When you figure out that the first step is the thought, the second step is the sensation.
Yeah.
That's your body. That's your body saying, hey, you're out of line, you're off track. Mm-hmm. But we got so used to beating ourselves up, we got so used to feeling terrible, and then we go and get medication. If it happens long enough. And so that just dulls down the sensation. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many people we've got off medication, Loree, in the matter of, weeks and months, because they realise that they've just got bad habits. And we call it sloppy thinking. Yeah. And so what happens is we don't know where the thought comes from somewhat, because it's in the back of your subconscious mind, from a smell, from a memory. But then what happens is you can think about your thought, and then once you're thinking about your thought, then you can make a choice. And so, you know what I mean? So then we sort of say, well, get in the coach's box and look down on yourself and say, okay, without looking down, look at yourself logically. Is this thought working for me or is it not? And then do something about it. And the key here is to understand the bad thought will give you the sensation, because the thought goes in immediately, quick, like beyond belief quickly. It goes in a million miles an hour. But it's the sensation that's warning us, right? Because that's your red flag. That's your warning bell going, you're off, you're feeling off. Why? Go back, figure it out, get it out, let's go again. And then when you hack yourself like that, that's the rewiring. And then all of a sudden you do that time and time and time again. It takes 21 days, right, to change the thought process, and it takes 63 days to create the new habit. Right. So that's why we've got a consistent repetition. We call it a personal activation system to help people activate their new brains.
Nice. Yeah. But the funny thing is so often, you feel yourself getting off. People, are frustrated about something. They feel they're off. They're angry, they're upset, whatever. It's a negative feeling. And instead of going to the why and how do I unwind this? How do I reframe this? They just they get carried away with it. They stay in the current. They stay in the current of the negative emotion, right? And sometimes, I actually start doing things that feed the emotion, which again is just, habituated behavior. Probably at age 5 or 6 or 7, didn't learn how to manage those things because of what was modeled for them. So, you do what you learned to do.
Yeah, it's adrenaline. It's like, oh, this is real. This is really happening. I am hard done by. I'm really into this mood right now, and this is now my identity, and I'm standing for my existence. Right. I'm hard done by, because then you get to the end of the night, you can't sleep because cortisol is pumping through your blood, through your veins. And then if you have cortisol in your system after 2 p.m., you're going to find it hard to sleep. So you've got to chill, you've got to calm the farm, right? Especially after 2 o'clock. So people don't sleep because they're highly strung.
Right.
And that's life.
Well, yeah. And those high if you do that all the time, if that's a lifestyle for you, again, the prolonged negative stress, that those high cortisol levels, now you're talking about, the onset of all kinds of physical ailments and disease that are a result of having that constant dose of cortisol being released into the system.
That's right. And that's modern day science.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's, that cortisol is great if your life is threatened and you've got to run from a saber-toothed tiger. But most of us don't have to do that anymore. So if you don't have to run from T-Rexes and tigers, then you really need to get a grip on how to manage your stress. So what are some of the main areas where people break down that starts leading to these feelings of stress?
Yeah, so I guess the key is, if you lose excitement with life, it's a big one. Like, life is here to be enjoyed. It really is. Yeah. Where everyone says, life isn't supposed to be easy. That's rubbish. It's all choice. Like, you're here to grow. There's going to be a element of contrast to push you into the growth stage. But remembering that life is actually fun. Life is actually designed to be good. So if you're not having fun, well, go and find some fun. Whatever it is. It could be going for a hike, meet some friends, coffee, just get out of momentum of not having fun. And I guess what's really focusing is get focused on your thinking. When you get really focused on your thinking, because where your focus goes, your life flows. And so if you consistently focus on the thinking of the past and you're guilty about broken relationships, business partners, arguments, right, you've got to heal. You've got to heal quickly. And we've got a free a life potential scorecard on our website, which will give you an assessment on how you're traveling on the 9 key areas. But it's about, one of the part of that is really self-love and acceptance and getting clear on that, Yeah. I guess the other one here is, the third point is lacking self-worth, Loree. Yeah. People go through life and there's just so much self-doubt and they just don't give themselves the time of day, and that comes from self-love too. But people that are lacking self-worth, they really do want to please other people too much or need to be helped or, there's always something there. And that comes from your childhood as well, or it comes from a broken relationship, or it comes from living in the past. I mean, that's what it comes down to as much. Like I have a lot of clients and I ask a lot of them, do you live in the past more or do you live in the future? And the elder generation always say the past and the younger generation always say the future, because obviously the timeline of our existence.
Right.
So really understanding, I guess the other parts is harboring repeated fears, is if you're consistently bombarding yourself with worry, which again is all about safety of the mind. And once you hack your mind and say, okay, well, this child mind I've got is actually got to get off center stage. I've got to replace it with getting to know who I am. It's a really big point, because when people get to know who they are, they can relax.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And then I guess the last one is just not listening and respecting your body. So you've got to physically be fit, get your body up and running, because it really does require that. And that's part of enlightenment. If you really want to become an enlightened soul, it comes down to the food you eat. It comes down to what you drink. It comes down to the way you think. So you can raise your vibrational state, which is the vibrational levels you went through before. Right. But a lot of it has got to do with how you manage your body.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that as well. It's the vehicle, and so your physical diet on top of your mental diet, those two things, you get those dialed in, and you will be off to the races. You will be right. You will be a creating,
Genius.
Right, there you go. So that's extremely important, because the wrong kind of food on a regular basis will not even allow your mind to get to the levels that it's capable of getting to. It's like, a bad drug, and it just dulls you. It saps your energy, not only your physical energy, but just the energy of your being. So,
there's an expert out there called the medical medium. He, in this space, really about getting your body to that point where, elevating all aspects of it, and it comes down to core aspects of what you eat.
Yeah. Anthony William, I believe.
I think it is.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting. But I think it's true. I mean, when you really think about what most people are eating on a regular basis, it's you can see the effects, number one, and you can if you are somebody that is working, maybe you have a team or a staff or employees, and you can tell by people's energy and production and how they are behaving and getting along with others and interacting with others. The diet plays a role, and you can see it if you are looking for it, and if you're connecting the dots. It's very interesting. So let's talk about some keys to become stress-free, because having a stress-free life, or at least of the negative stress, chronic negative stress, is definitely going to be something that's going to help us become the best version of ourselves.
Yeah. Well, there's many keys, but I guess we have to look at the 5-step system to help people become the best version of themselves. And when you become the best version of yourself, you can manage stress. And so, stress, you've got to understand it. It's an energy. It's a choice. Everything is neutral until you give it meaning, is my favorite quote. Everything is neutral until you give it meaning. And so, but when you're in the throes of life as a father, trying to make sure your family are going to be okay for the next 40 years, there's always going to be stress somewhere. Yeah. And so I guess the key is to really understand and get the bigger picture. On a day-to-day existence with stress, wake up in the morning and just check in with your thought. Check in. Are you already into the day, or are you actually being grateful? And it sounds like, when I was growing up, I thought the word grateful and the words I am words, and I thought it was just rubbish. I was just like, woo-woo. But then I realised that when you actually get into the grateful stage, I've got a family, got a roof over my head, I'm living in the moment right now, I'm not going to charge out the door focusing on what the possibilities are the day will be, because they usually don't end up the way you think anyway. Right? So the illusion. So really getting in touch with that thought process and getting clear on, what do you want in life? It's a bigger question, but, where you at now? What do you want? And so there's consciously creating now. And have some people around you that can support you in this area. But really going there and understanding that to manage stress all the time, you've got to work on yourself. You just can't hope that, like, you don't expect to see change if you don't make one, right? Don't expect to see change if you don't make one. It's so simple, but it's so honest. So what are you doing on a daily existence for the three areas, the body, mind, and the soul, and balance them out? And so, after that, you're really going to have to retrain your thinking. And you'll see it happens very quickly. Then after that, cleaning out stuff you don't need, and then that's part of getting rid of just, histories, traumas that might be bogging you down. And you can do that relatively quickly these days. And then you get to the point where you're really dreaming again, dream the excitement start of life. But instead of yesterday's thoughts, like 80% of our thoughts are from yesterday, majority of the time. So understanding that there's momentum there. You can't let your mind go into momentum. Like just trying to stop a car rolling down the hill, right? Stop the car at the start of the hill. And then you start to get on top of this and you start to rewire.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. And, I think thinking about your present and your future and what you want as opposed to what you fear may happen or what you don't want, because it's really easy for people to rattle off a list of what they're not happy about, what they don't like, what they don't want, what they're afraid may happen. But then when you ask them, okay, so what does a great life look like to you? What is it you want? They have to sometimes really stop and think about it. They haven't given that very much thought, all the thoughts going to the other stuff, which is, of course, then, what you keep generating. Interesting.
Well, that's so true. That's so true. Like, many clients will sit down and say, what are your dreams? I don't have many. I'm just managing the current moment, by moment. I say, you're financially free? No, I've never really thought I could be. Where's your limiting belief around that? Why can't you? There's abundance all around the planet. I've got a broken relationship. I'm still hurt from that. Well, why? Because you're trying to control the past when the past's over. And so you can see the messiness that goes on up here, which is quantity thoughts. Right. So just getting quality on your thoughts gets quality on your life.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I heard you, we touched on mindfulness for a second, and I heard you talking, and I thought this was so awesome, about teaching your kids mindfulness. So how old are your daughters?
I've got twin girls at 5 and I've got an 8-year-old daughter. So I've got 3 gorgeous, powerful little monkeys. So these girls, they go to sleep. So in the app, there's meditations, children's meditations. So there's one aspect. Oh, they love it. All my clients got their kids on it now. Look, I can tell you, like yesterday we had a client and their family, 2 kids with autism and special care needs, and father has lots of challenges himself with anxiety, and it's a household of real challenges. And so to put this to when the young boy gets wild, he gets wild. And so yesterday he sent me a video onto our group. It's just so heartwarming, is that usually they have to get the punching bags out and get the kid to sort of express what he's saying. And all he did was say, okay, he goes, Daddy's working on his thoughts every day. And the kid stopped. He goes, what do you mean? Because everything he was trying to do couldn't get through. And because he'd only been on the program 1 week, his father. And he goes, well, I've been working on my thoughts and do you want to try it with me? So he brought up the thought shopping, which is this thing here. Okay. And he chose his emotion and he's walking through it. And then his emotion was, he was worried about something, recollect, obviously. And then he goes, I'm an unbelievable something else. So he thought shopped it into this, and he made his son then hit the bag saying, I'm amazing, whatever it may be. And now it's stopped. So that went for like 3 hours. Within a matter of 3 or 4 minutes, the kid was thought shopping. Nice. And he's only 5 years old, right? He's only 5 years old.
Wow.
And so when my kids have a blowout, I never go and coach them there and then. I'll always go back and say, now, what caused that? Or mummy or daddy or my sister? Okay, so what were your options? Okay, I don't have any options. I say, well, your options were how you feel. So then we go through this thought shopping process. It's glorious. And they can swing past the emojis. They put it in, and then they've got their own thought shop list now, because you can store them and you can reuse them, and it pulls them out. Oh. So, it really works. So now they're understanding that they've got choices, which we as kids just have to deal with your emotions the best way possible and get spanked on the backside with a wooden spoon and back off to the bedroom,
Right. Yeah. It was simple times back then.
Yeah, complicated, wasn't it? There's one other aspect just let me add is in the morning, because I know that my 5-year-olds are actually in the hypnotic stage, the 0 to 7. So I'll make sure that my finest time of the day is I usually do some fitness work in the morning, and then by myself or with my eldest, and then I'll have breakfast in front of me and I'll program. I'll go into program mode. I say, Georgie, one thing I love about you is you're really understanding and caring. You're really friendly and you're a quick learner. You're just not trying to pump her ego up, just giving her self-worth. Okay, just pumping her full of self-worth. Because we have like thresholds in relationships, right? So we've got to pour water into these relationships. So they know that daddy's daddy, and so I just program them, each and every one of them, and then I get them to program each other. And that's only for 10 minutes of the day. So they walk out going, I'm feeling good. I haven't woken up in a bad mood. I've got control of my thoughts. And now I've got this new program going in, right? So when they become young women, hopefully that'll pay off.
Oh, it's going to, Rich. I think that is brilliant. I love it. I hope everyone checks out your app, not only for themselves, but for their kids. I think, this has been a really rough couple of years for kids. We've all gone through stuff, people, that they've never had to deal with before. And I think the more of this kind of thing that people can, offer and utilize with their kids and help teach them so that they can, start to unwind any of the negative programming that's happened over these last 2 years. There's a lot of fear and anxiety and just uncertainty. To be able to have something so mentally healthy and positive that really fuels them and teaches them that they don't have to stay in that state that everybody has been, programming them to be in for the last couple of years. It's so needed and it's really valuable. So I love what you've created there.
Yeah, let me just add to that. Like, it's obvious to me, but these kids that come through, like, I get a lot of parents saying, can you look after my kids? Usually above 12, 13, 14, but we're about to launch a program with the child and the parent. Because the child's just learned it from the parent. Now, if I go and fix the child and the parent still has it, he's still going to go into the environment where it's going to be toxic, where it's high stress, high uncertainty, high worry, high aggression, whatever it may be. Or it could just be uncertainty. It could be just want to improve our life. You don't have to be in a dogma sort of state of mind. Right. But we're going to have the parent and the child go through the program together and simplify it. And so then the reason why this app is so powerful, because when I coach my clients in a group coaching call once a week, and we've got 27 of me, so we're out there running group programs, is once that program's done, that hour's done, then it's the app that does the repetition.
Perfect.
Right? So that's where the brain changes, right? That's why you get notifications every 10 minutes, every hour, whatever you want. But so that's why we need the parent and the child doing it together, so the parent can be consistent with the child's growth, because once that child gets it, the brain in that child's mind is just going to expand so quickly and get it far quicker than us.
Yes, little geniuses in the making.
Yes.
That's fantastic. I love what you're doing. Do you have a going rogue story for me, Rich?
I do. I've got many, actually. I was a bit of a kid. I was a wild child, Loree, so I was rogue quite a bit. I guess the one that stands out to me is, so when I went through that spiritual experience, or that mystical awakening to what is life all about, I realized that I had a niche for understanding patterns. And so my first business, which I was working with all these sports teams around Australia, and I systemized how to make them successful very quickly through cultural shift, right? So then I would have people all around Australia ringing me and say, what do I do this week? And I'd say, just do this with your leadership group and da-da-da-da. And it was a process, and I had enormous success. So I then realized that I needed to put this into the business world, because sport was only so small. So then I was at that point in my life where my wife and I were trying to have children. We were broke, absolutely batshit broke. We couldn't even afford a bottle of wine. We were living in a derelict house, had a baby on the way. It was like after 3 years of IVF, so it was a really, really hard time. And my business, I thought, would boom straight away. I thought, okay, I finished being employed by other coaching companies, and it didn't happen. And so we were really in despair. So what I did is, we had no money. and I had to go and find a company to partner with because I wanted this sports business to go into the business coaching business and expand around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just a mess. And so anyway, I found someone who said, yes, we were interested to talk to you as an American company. I won't mention who they are because it might shine. I'll tell you, you'll realise in a minute. Anyway, they said, we're coming to Australia. We'll meet you over there. And I told my wife that they paid for me to go to the Gold Coast and they wanted me to go there because I had to make sure that her mental health was really important because she was in a really bad place. Yeah. And so I just went and got a credit card and flew over to the Gold Coast and went to meet with the big dog over there, and he didn't even show up. Right. So I got given another bloke who made it. It was lovely in the end, but made it really hard. And so I flew back to Melbourne. I rang this guy. I said, you know, I've got a credit card for this, buddy. He goes, oh, sorry, buddy. I said, I'm coming to Las Vegas. And they said, all right. I said, make sure he's there, you know, the big fella. And who is one of the best small business coach. He's probably the best small business coach in the world. And he has thousands of franchisees. And so I flew to Vegas. I told my wife, they're paying for me to go. Don't worry. They're all looked after. I went and got another credit card. You know, I was just trying to find money everywhere. Flew to Vegas and went to the office and he didn't show up again.
Oh, so my God.
Yeah. And so I got the CEO there and he's like, yeah, sorry, couldn't make it today. I was like, I'm in Vegas from Australia. You know, it's a 35-hour flight, whatever. So I rang the wife. I said, honey, it was a great meeting. Went really well. Don't worry about it. And I'm just caving in here. And it's like, she goes, oh, fantastic. You know, that's so great. Flew home and I rang the company again and said, I'm coming again. And I said, make sure he's there now. So I went, I maxed out that credit card, you know, flew back to Vegas. I said, honey, they're flying me back. They love the business. They're flying me back. And she had no idea, right? She just thought, and I'm maxing out our debt.
Oh, my God.
So then I flew back and there he was and he met with me and he loved it. And then we partnered and we built a number one employee engagement company in the world called Engage and Grow Global. And we trained over 700 coaches and traveled the world for 4 years in a row. And it was a great partnership. Now, he's bought that company off me. Now I've started Quality Mind, but it was the going rogue. I just had to really not be honest with my wife. She knows the full story now. She was very thankful for it. At the time, she wouldn't be able to mentally handle it. But just that journey to become an entrepreneur, Loree, is just, if you knew how hard it was, you wouldn't do it. And that's the best thing about not knowing how hard it's going to be. You've got to follow your excitement, right?
Right. Yeah, it's not an easy path to become a successful entrepreneur, no doubt. I cannot imagine the stress, though, that you must have been under keeping this, telling her, literally lying to her. I mean, you literally, but you had so much, I guess, belief that you were gonna make this work, that it was worth the lie.
It was worth it.
Was she like when it finally panned out, and then you're like, okay, now I actually can tell her the truth? How did she react when you told her about the credit cards and everything?
By then we had made a fair bit of money, right? So we travelled around. It was financially a good decision. Yeah. And I think it came out about maybe 6 months after. I said, listen, honey, you know, just had to sort of keep this one from me because, you know, I knew what I had was so special. It was so new. Like the market didn't understand it. But when I put the program through, the whole company lit up, you know. So then I had to back it. Because I was all in or nothing. And, you know, I don't know. Luckily it didn't pan out the other way, eh?
Yeah. That was definitely a going rogue. Very roguey. So I'm glad it panned out and worked out well, and it sounds like you have a lovely family. Where can people find out more about you and your app and all of the great stuff you have to offer, Rich?
Yeah, so we've got the app called Quality Mind Global app on Play Store and Google Play, App Store and Google Play. We're at qualitymindglobal.com. There's a free scorecard there. You can find us as a podcast, Quality Mind Podcast, which I co-panel with an elite athlete here in Australia, Sean Higgins. Contact us at richard@qualitymindglobal.com, especially if you want to have a look at what we're doing with families and kids and mums and dads. It's a system we run. But we're all around the world now. We're about to hit America in a big way, actually coming up in this Q3. We've launched into India. We've launched into UAE. It's now launching into Mexico in next month. It's just happening. So we're going to be running retreats too, Loree, and I'd love to come over and see you, and we'll have a run a retreat together.
Yeah, no, I'm always open for stuff like that. So you let me know when you're coming to the States. You said you haven't been to Wyoming yet, right?
No, not been Wyoming. Yep,
might have to have a little powwow here of some sort, right? Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. Awesome. I love what you're doing. I really, really, especially with the families and the kids, it's so important and so needed right now. So I think that's amazing. Rich, you have been so generous with your time, and I love our conversation, and hopefully you'll be willing to come back again at some point.
It'd be an absolute pleasure, Loree. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a great chat.
It has been. Thank you. So everyone, this is going to be a wrap for this season. I will be taking the summer off from podcasting, but we will be returning in the fall, and the guest lineup is already looking fantastic. Meanwhile, I will still be working with my private clients. So check out loreebischoff.com if you want to find out what private coaching with me is all about. Make sure to subscribe too, and that way you will be notified when the new episodes drop, and be sure to spread the good shift around if you found value in this show. Until we meet again, everybody, stay feisty, my friends. Don't sweat the small stuff, and go make some epic shift happen in your lives. You too, Gary V.